Kyle sat on the edge of a cold metal bench, staring at the strange purple sky above him. He had been on this alien planet for only 2 weeks, but it already felt like a lifetime. His ship had broken down. His company left him behind. And now? He had nothing, not even a single credit in his pocket. The city around him was bright and loud. Strange alien creatures walked past him, wearing glowing clothes and speaking in strange languages. Buildings floated in the air, and hovercars zoomed by like silent birds. It was beautiful, but it wasn't home. Not for Kyle. He was hungry. He was tired. And worst of all, he was alone. Earlier that day, he had walked into 4 different buildings asking for work. Each time, the aliens looked at him with cold eyes. No credits. No ID, no work, they said, shaking their heads. One even laughed in his face. Go back to Earth, human, the alien had muttered. But Kyle couldn't go back. He didn't even have enough credits to ride the local shuttle, let alone buy a ship ticket. He was stuck. As the night fell, the temperature dropped. Kyle wrapped his arms around himself and started walking. He didn't know where he was going. He just didn't want to sit there and feel useless. Streetlights blinked above him, casting long shadows across the glowing pavement. That's when he saw it. A tall silver building stood quietly at the end of the street. It didn't look like the others. There were no flashy signs or loud music. Just a warm, soft light coming from a window on the 2nd floor. And then, he heard a voice. "You look cold, human," the voice said. Kyle stopped. He looked up and saw her, a tall, glowing alien woman with smooth lavender skin and silver white hair that flowed like liquid silk. She stood on a small balcony, her eyes glowing a soft blue in the darkness. She was wearing a long robe, and in her hand was a small cup that steamed in the cool air. Yeah, Kyle said awkwardly. "I guess I am." "You've been walking." "All evening," she said. "I've been watching. No credits, right?" Kyle lowered his head. No credits, no job, no home. There was a pause. Then the alien woman smiled gently. "Come inside," she said. "You shouldn't freeze out there." Kyle hesitated. He'd heard stories. Some aliens didn't like humans. Some used them. Some even hunted them. But something about her eyes. They weren't cruel. They looked curious, kind, even sad. "I don't have anything to pay you," Kyle said honestly. "I didn't ask for payment," she replied. The door to the building opened on its own. Kyle took a deep breath and walked inside. The inside was warm, the lights were soft, and everything smelled like something sweet, like honey mixed with firewood. The floors were smooth and glowing under his feet. He looked around in awe. The place wasn't fancy, but it felt ... safe. She met him at the base of the stairs. Up close, the alien woman was even more beautiful. Her eyes sparkled like stars, and her smile was gentle but strong. She offered him a cup of something warm. "My name is Zaira," she said. "I'm the owner of this place." "Kyle," he said, taking the cup carefully. "I'm just lost human." "Well, Kyle," she said, "I have extra rooms. You can stay here for now." "But why?" Kyle asked, confused. "I can't offer you anything. No money? No ID, nothing." Zaire looked at him for a long moment. "Sometimes," she said softly, "what we need isn't credits or titles. Sometimes it's just someone to talk to. Someone who doesn't expect anything." Kyle didn't know what to say. No one had shown him kindness like this since he left Earth. Most people just looked past him. But this woman, it's alien. She saw him. "Thank you," he said quietly, holding the warm cup in both hands. Zaira nodded. "Come, you look like you need rest." She led him up the stairs, her footsteps light and graceful. Kyle followed, feeling more confused than ever, but also more hopeful maybe. just maybe, this strange planet wasn't the end of his journey. Maybe it was the beginning. Kyle woke up to the soft sound of alien birds singing outside the window. The room was warm, clean, and peaceful. For a moment, he forgot where he was. The soft bed beneath him and the calm glow of the ceiling lights felt too gentle for a planet that had been so cold to him. He sat up slowly and looked around. The walls were smooth and silver blue, with strange, beautiful art drawn in glowing ink. A plant floated in midair beside the door, spinning slowly like it was dreaming. It didn't look like Earth at all. But for the first time in weeks, Kyle felt safe. Zara had let him stay the night. A stranger. A broke human. Why? He walked into the hallway, following the sound of soft music. The smell of warm fruit and something sweet filled the air. As he stepped into the kitchen, he saw her again. Zara stood with her back turned, humming to herself. She wore a long robe made of silky green fabric that shimmered like water. Her long silver hair fell across her back, glowing faintly. She moved with grace, her hands dancing as she prepared something on a floating dish. Kyle cleared his throat. "Good morning," he said. Zey Ra turned slowly, her eyes soft and glowing. She smiled. "You slept well." He nodded. "Better than I have in weeks. Thank you, again." Zaire walked over and handed him a bowl filled with something blue and steaming. "Eat, you'll need strength." Kyle sat at the small glass table and took a bite. It tasted sweet, but also warm and rich, like a memory he couldn't place. He looked at her as she sat across from him. "You live here alone?" he asked. "Yes," she said simply. "No husband, no partner." Zara tilted her head slightly, her smile fading just a little. "Oh, no. I've had offers, but I never said yes." Kyle blinked. "Why not?" She looked out the window, her voice quiet, "Because they wanted a title, not a heart. They saw me as something to own, not someone to understand." Kyle was silent. He wasn't sure what to say, but he felt that loneliness in her voice. It was deep, like a wound covered by stars. After a pause, she looked at him again. "You still don't know why I let you in, do you?" He shrugged. "I have nothing. No credits, no purpose. I didn't expect anything." "That's why," she said. He frowned. "Because I expected nothing." Zaira nodded. "Yes, you were honest. You didn't pretend. You didn't lie or beg. You were real." Kyle looked down at his bowl. The food felt heavier now. "I still don't understand what you want from me," he said carefully. Zaira stood and walked toward the tall window. She touched it gently, and the glass became transparent, showing the city below, a place full of life, yet empty in so many ways. "I don't need money," she said. "I have enough. What I need is presence. I need someone who will speak with me, sit with me, not for gain, but just to be." Kyle looked up, his voice low. "You want company." Zaya turned and smiled. "No, Kyle. I want honesty. I want truth. Company is easy. Realness is rare." He stood up, unsure if he was supposed to feel lucky or trapped. "You don't even know me. I know you are tired. I know you are kind. And I know you have nowhere else to go. That is enough for me. For now." Silence filled the room again. Kyle walked to the window and stood beside her. The city looked less harsh from up here, more like a painting than a prison. "Okay," he said, "I'll stay. But not because I owe you. I'll stay because I want to know who you really are." Zaira smiled softly, her eyes glowing brighter. "Then we have a deal. No rent, no lies, just truth." They stood side by side, to strangers, lien and human. Neither had planned for this, neither understood where it would lead. But both had found something rare in each other. Not just shelter, but something even more valuable: understanding. The sun on this alien planet never rose like Earth's. It shimmered sideways through layers of sky, like light passing through liquid glass. Kyle stood in front of the mirror in his small room, still trying to understand how he had gone from sleeping in a dark alley to being a guest in a glowing tower owned by a mysterious alien woman. He didn't know what Zaira wanted from him, but it definitely wasn't rent. That morning, she invited him to the rooftop. It was flat and wide, with floating chairs and plants that swayed to music only they could hear. A dome of invisible energy kept the wind out, but let the stars shine in. Zaira stood near the edge, her arms behind her back, staring out at the endless skyline. "You slept well again?" she asked without turning. Kyle nodded. "Yes, thank you." "I still can't believe this isn't a dream." Zaira chuckled softly. "It's real, and the deal still stands." He stepped closer, frowning. "That's the thing. I don't understand the deal." "No credits," she said, turning to face him. "No chores. No jobs. Just one condition." Kyle's chest tightened. "What condition?" "You give me time," she said. 1 hour each evening. Just you and me. You talk. You listen. You stay honest." Kyle blinked. "That's it." Zaira nodded. "No lies, no pretending." "I want realness, Kyle. I've had 100 suitors." They all smiled, bowed, offered flowers, but none ever listened. Kyle looked into her eyes. There was sadness in them, deep and quiet. Not dramatic, not desperate, just there, like an old scar. "Why me?" he asked. "Because you're not here to impress me," she said. "You're here because you have nowhere else to go. You are unpolished." That's refreshing. Kyle sat down on one of the floating chairs. "So you want a roommate who talks to you?" "I want someone who doesn't lie to me," she corrected. He exhaled. "I can do that, but I'm not interesting. My life's a mess." "Perfect," Zaira said, sitting beside him. "Messy lives are the ones that tell the best truths." That evening, they started their first session. Zaira made tea dark purple and slightly glowing, and they sat by a circular window that showed a slow-moving alien moon. Kyle talked, not because he had to, but because Zaira really listened. Her eyes didn't judge. Her silence wasn't awkward. It was inviting. Kyle told her about Earth, about his childhood, about his dreams of becoming a ship pilot and how it all fell apart. Zaira didn't interrupt once. When he finished, she said only 2 words. "Thank you." Kyle almost laughed. "For what?" "It was a mess of a story." "It was yours," she said. "And it was real." In return, Zaira shared a little piece of her story. Not much, but just enough to stir Kyle's curiosity. She had once been part of something bigger, something powerful. But she walked away, chose this quiet life. "No one ever asked why. Most assume I was rejected," she said. "But truth is I was the one who left." "Why?" Kyle asked. Zey looked at him, because all they wanted was a symbol. "I wanted a soul." That night, when Kyle went to his room, he didn't feel like a guest anymore. He felt seen. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a burden. He felt like part of something small, strange, and quiet, but something real. He still had no money. But maybe, just maybe, he was beginning to understand the true value of the deal. The days passed like soft wind, unnoticed but deeply felt. Kyle had lived in Zaira's building for almost a week now. Every night, they shared an hour of honest talk, sometimes light, sometimes heavy, but always real. Zaira never asked for more than that. And Kyle never dared to break. The rule of truth. But something was changing. It wasn't just about words anymore. It was in the small things. Zara began leaving warm drinks outside his door before he woke up. Kyle found that the chair he sat on most often was always turned slightly toward the morning light, like someone remembered. She even repaired his old jacket without saying a word, stitching the sleeve with a thread that shimmered like moonlight. Kyle noticed too. He started waiting for the evenings. Not because he owed Zaira, but because he wanted to see her expressions, the way her eyes lit up when she was surprised. The way her voice softened when she spoke about her home star. The way she laughed at things no one else would find funny. He had been alone for so long, and now this silence between them began to feel full. Not empty. One evening during their usual hour, Zara asked a question she hadn't before. "Do you miss anyone, Kyle?" He looked at her, surprised. "Yes," he said after a moment, "but not for the reason you think." "What reason then?" "I miss people I never got the chance to know better," he said, eyes fixed on the glowing city outside the window. "People who passed through my life while I was too busy surviving to connect." Zaru didn't speak for a moment. Then she said quietly, "You notice things? That's rare." Kyle smiled. "You do too." There was a silence, but not awkward. It felt like something unspoken had been shared between them. Something delicate, unnamed. The next day, Kyle offered to help in the building. "Let me earn my stay," he said. Zaira simply looked at him and replied, "You already do." Still, Kyle began doing small things, fixing a loose panel in the hallway, cleaning the elevator buttons, organizing a forgotten shelf in the kitchen. He did it without asking, and she didn't stop him. That night, Zaire invited him to the garden on the rooftop. It wasn't like Earth's gardens. The plants glowed. Some floated. Others sang quiet hums when touched. It was beautiful, surreal, like stepping into a dream as they sat beneath a slow-turning star disk. Zaya opened up. "I created this garden because I missed something I never had," she said softly. Kyle turned to her. "What do you mean, my people?" "They value logic, strength, control. But I was always drawn to feeling beauty, softness. They said I was broken. So I made a space where I could be myself. This garden is my heart." Kyle felt the air change. He looked at her, not just her glowing eyes or flawless skin, but really saw her. She wasn't just an alien landlady anymore. She was someone who had suffered in silence for a long, long time. Someone who had built a world inside a cold planet, just to survive. "You're not broken," Kyle said quietly. "You just feel more than they're used to." Zaira smiled, and it was a real smile. Not polite, not guarded. Warm and full of something new. Trust. That night, when Kyle returned to his room, he stood at the door for a long time before going in. Something inside him was different. He still didn't have money, but now he had purpose. Maybe even something more than that, something he didn't have a name for yet. It was late. The stars above the city moved slowly, like silent watchers in the sky. Kyle couldn't sleep. Something had been bothering him. There was one door on the second floor that Zaira always avoided. It looked just like the other, smooth, silver, with soft glowing ejezba. It was always locked. Every other room was open and warm, but not that one. Not ever. Kyle had asked once, casually. Zaira's smile had faded for a moment. "That room is not for now," she had said gently. And that was it. But now, after all the hours they'd spent talking, after all the honesty they'd shared, the locked door felt different. It felt like a wall between them. He paced in his room, thinking. What was behind it? Old memories. Something dangerous, or maybe something too painful to face. He told himself to sleep, but his feet moved on their own. The hallway was quiet. The lights dimmed to soft blue. Kyle stood in front of the door, heart beating faster than usual. He didn't want to betray Zaro's trust, but he also didn't want to keep pretending he wasn't curious. He touched the door. To his surprise, it slid open. No code, no lock, just silence. Kyle stepped inside. The room was dim and cold. Shelves lined the walls filled with small boxes, gifts, and photos. He walked slowly, eyes scanning each object. There were portraits of Zaira, standing beside different alien men. Some wore uniforms, others robes, all of them smiling. All of them. Gone letters sat in open boxes. Kyle picked one up. It was written in flowing alien script, but he used the small translator in his pocket to read it. To the most radiant Zarya, your beauty is unmatched. I wish to bind our houses in glory and power. Let us create the strongest union in the stars. Another letter read, you will make a fine queen. I care not for your softness as long as your name joins mine. Each message was the same. None spoke of love. None spoke of her soul. Only status, power, ownership. Kyle put the letter down. Then he noticed something else. On the far side of the room, under a soft light, was a small glass box. Inside was a simple bracelet, silver, old and worn. Next to it was a faded photo of Zaira and a young alien child. Kyle's eyes widened. He had never seen her with a child. The girl in the picture had Zaira's eyes. But her smile was different, wild, and full of joy. Before he could look closer, a soft voice echoed behind him. You shouldn't be here. Kyle froze. He turned around slowly. Zaira stood at the doorway, her face unreadable. Not angry, not surprised, just tired. I didn't mean to, he began. She raised a hand. It's all right. You were always going to come here eventually. Kyle looked around. Who were they? The ones in the pictures. Suitors, she said. All of them. Powerful men, leaders, warriors. They came with gifts and promises. Not one stayed when I refused to become their trophy. Kyle pointed at the picture of the child, and her Zai's eyes softened. She walked forward slowly and picked up the frame. My daughter, she whispered. Kyle's heart ached. Where is she? Gone, Zaira said. She was sick, rare condition, no cure. I searched every system, spent everything I had, but it wasn't enough. Kyle stepped closer. Why keep this room locked? Zaira didn't answer right away. Then she said, because it holds the pieces of a life I was told to forget. They said pain makes you weak, but I kept it, to remind me that my heart still works. Silence filled the room. Kyle didn't know what to say, so he did the only thing he could. He placed a hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry, said simply. Zaira looked at him, really looked. Not with pride or charm, but with raw, quiet pain. And something else, relief. You didn't run away, she whispered. No, Kyle said. I'm still here. In that locked room full of ghosts. Something shifted. A wall fell, not between Kyle and the room, but between two hearts that had long forgotten how to open. The next day, the air in the tower felt different, not heavy, just quieter. Kyle noticed it in the way Zaira moved slower, more thoughtful. She didn't speak much during breakfast. She didn't smile like she usually did. But she didn't avoid him either. She had let him see the room. The letters, the photo of her daughter. Now there was nothing to hide, but Kyle could feel if there was still something more, something deeper. That night, instead of their usual place, near the window, Zaire led Kyle to the garden on the rooftop again. The stars above looked brighter than ever. The glowing plants around them gave off a gentle warmth. Zaira sat down on a floating stone bench and motioned for Kyle to sit beside her. I told you about my suitors, she began softly. And my daughter. But there's one thing I never told anyone? Kyle nodded, staying quiet. Zahira looked up at the stars, her voice steady but low. I am not just a landlady, Kyle. I wasn't born to live quietly in this tower. I was born into the house of Vilera, the royal bloodline of the Illyrian core worlds. I was a princess. Kyle blinked, stunned. Zahira smiled faintly. I ran from it, gave it up. My people. They believed emotions made rulers weak. I felt too much. I cried as a child. I sang. I cared too deeply for others. So they sent me away, told me to fix myself before I could return. But you didn't go back, Kyle said softly. No, she replied. I came here, built this place with my own credits, far from their rules, far from their pride. I lived quietly. Until... She paused. Until I fell in love with someone they never accepted. My daughter's father. Kyle's heart beat faster. What happened to him? He died before she did, Zahira whispered. They refused him medicine, said his blood wasn't pure enough to deserve it. That was the moment I knew I'd never return. Not as a royal. Not even as a citizen. Silence wrapped around them like soft fog. Zey. Ra closed her eyes for a moment. I tell you this because I see something in you. Something familiar. Kyle looked at her, confused. Me? Yes, she said. You came here with nothing. No power, no title. But you still offered your truth. You listened. You never tried to use me. She turned to face him fully now. In my world, no one sees a person. They see status, numbers, name. But you see me. Kyle swallowed hard. He had no fancy words, no speeches, just truth. I don't care who you were, he said. I care about who you are now. Zahira's eyes glowed brighter for a moment, but it wasn't power, it was emotion. Something gentle, unused for years. Most would run after hearing what I told you, she whispered. But I'm not most, Kyle said. She smiled. For real? You're right, she said. You're not. For the first time, she reached out and took his hand. Her touch was warm, electric, soft, yet strong. A kind of silence passed between them, not empty, but full of everything they couldn't say with words. Kyle felt like something invisible was changing around them. Not magic, but something just as powerful. Connection. That night, Zahira didn't walk him back to his room. She simply said, "Good night, Kyle," with a voice that felt like a promise. And Kyle didn't sleep for hours. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hearing her words again and again in his mind. You see me, maybe, for the first time in her long life. Zahira wasn't a forgotten princess. She was just a woman. Finally seen. The next morning, the light from the twin suns poured through the tall windows like liquid gold. Kyle stood by the glass, holding a warm cup in his hands. He watched the alien sky change colors, slowly blue to silver, silver to rose. It was beautiful, peaceful, but his mind wasn't calm. Something inside him had changed since last night. Since Zahira told him who she really was. Since she let him hold her hand. It wasn't about shelter anymore. It wasn't about being broke, lost, or needing a place to stay. He wanted to stay. For her down the hallway, he heard soft footsteps. Zahira appeared in a simple robe, her long silver hair tied back. She looked younger to daylighter. It's like something heavy had been lifted from her heart. "Good morning," she said gently. Kyle smiled. "Good morning, princess," she laughed quietly. "Don't you dare call me that again," he shrugged. "I like it. It suits you." She sat beside him, looking out at the view. For a while, neither spoke. Then Zahira whispered, "You know, this tower was built for two, not one." Kyle turned to her. She continued, "When I left my world, I thought I would never trust anyone again. I thought love was just a trap, and that kindness always came with a price. Then you arrived, with nothing in your hands, and everything in your heart." Kyle swallowed hard. His voice was quiet. "You saved me, Zara. But I think I was meant to save you too." She looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. "I don't have anything," he added. "No credits, no ship, no title. But if you want someone who sees you, not the name, not the power, just you, then I'm already yours." The room went still. The silence was full of meaning. Zaira reached for his hand again, holding it gently. "I don't need a husband from the high houses," she said. "I don't need a perfect match by tradition. I just need someone who stays." Kyle nodded. "I'm staying." Tears welled up in Zaira's eyes, but they didn't fall. She smiled instead, her whole face glowing with something new. Hope, later. That day, she called in a small group of trusted locals, humans, aliens, friends she barely knew but respected. No ceremony, no royal dress, just 2 chairs. 2 hearts, and 2 simple words spoken under the soft, alien sky. "I choose you." That evening, the city lights shimmered far below as Zaira and Kyle stood hand in hand on the rooftop garden. Not as landlady and tenant, not as alien and human, but as to souls who had found something stronger than money, stronger than status, stronger than fear. Love. Zaira turned to him and whispered, "You came here with nothing." Kyle smiled. "And I leave with everything." She laughed softly. "Who said anything about leaving?" He looked at her, eyes full of peace. "Good point." And then they kissed. Soft, honest, real, no money, no crown, no lies, just a homemade knot of walls or towers, but of hearts.